Hello there. I'm Nick Roush. This is the KSR Football Podcast. Goodness gracious. I'm starting with mush mouth. It's because I was so excited to watch Luckett Cam over on the KSR YouTube page. If you're not subscribed to the channel right now, you got to check it out. Freddie, did you see any of Luckett Cam from Saturday?
I have not. I've watched 2 series of football after what I watched Kentucky do. And that's about it. I have boycotted football, and I'm going to continue to do so. I'm out.
See,
done. Quit.
My dad takes that approach, Freddie. I like to drown. Like when I see bad Kentucky football, I got to drown myself out with other football to kind of like push it out of my brain. So I spent 7 hours glued to NFL Red Zone on Sunday, and you know what? I've got a positive mind, a positive mindset. I'm ready to rock and roll.
I don't disagree with your kind of strategy there, Nick, but it's depressing right now. This sucks. This really sucks. What's like this development that we have, and really just this overall season. You were just waiting for it to click, really, right, all year, and it just never clicked. And then the bottom absolutely fell out Saturday at Kroger Field, and now you're just kind of. We're looking at it like a train wreck almost, and kind of waiting for the season to be over at this point. At least I am, from my point of view, because really nothing else matters until we get to the end of the season. They figure out what they're doing moving forward, and it just stinks that we're at this point. But it is what it is.
Well, it's hard to have a smile on your face right now, but our good friends at Justice Dental can do that for you, no matter what you need, no matter how old, no matter how young you are. My son, he's getting good at doing the toothbrush. He was a little stubborn at first, but we got him an Elmo one that sings. So it's starting to work. He's going to be ready to go to Justice Dental in no time. And you can too at either one of their 2 convenient locations in Lexington. They got one on Blazer Parkway and another on Wellington Way. You can schedule an appointment by calling 859-543-0700 or by giving them a call. Or not give them a call, visiting them online at justicedental.com. I know right now, too, it's a big time of the year to do your open enrollments and all that. So check with them before you sign up with dental insurance. They might have a plan for you where you don't even need to get it. Or if you don't get dental insurance, they might have something to hook you up. So check them out, justicedental.com, or give them a call at 859-543-0700. I think before we get into because really what this week is going to be about, it's going to be about the big picture of Kentucky football. But we do need to just stew on the suck that was from Saturday at Kroger Field, where, Freddie, it was one of those games that just felt like Kentucky was like we saw this game coming a mile away, right? Like we all here knew it was going to be sloppy, it was going to be ugly, but they were probably going to find a way to gut it out and get the win. And that's exactly how it played out. Chris Rodriguez put the team on his back. He had a 72-yard go-ahead touchdown run, the longest of his career. He was like, all right, now this defense, go get a stop. They got that stop, and then as usual, as is par for the course of this team, there was a penalty, illegal hands to the face that wiped away a game-clinching interception. And that was just one of the many mistakes that all 3 phases of the team made on Saturday, and ultimately they were not able to just grind out that win against the Commodores.
Yeah, Nick. To me, it was a lifeless. Performance. I mean, there was no juice, no fire. I don't know what term you want to use. Adam, you were in the stadium. You had a better viewpoint than I did. You and Nick. But before I get into that, I got a little housekeeping for you two. From Maria, make sure y'all do your insurance stuff. So. I don't know if you got it done today or not. So,
yeah, I got it.
Okay.
We're good.
Yeah, I did too. I was on the dirty list too. I had to get mine done today.
Still on that list.
Yeah, you're still on it, Adam. I just don't get it. I mean, the weather, yes. Vanderbilt played in the weather too. And I said today on my Monday morning quarterback show, if you don't want to play in elements, play basketball. I mean, it's just a matter of fact thing that it just was just I'm sure we'll talk about the offense in length. The defense was not good Saturday, and it's been great this entire season. Still ranked in the top 5 in virtually every category in the SEC, but gave up 448 yards to Vanderbilt, 264 on the ground. But I think third down, there's so much to talk about here. I'm going to break it down into segments. Okay. Let's go to third down offense. 4 out of 12 on third down, 33%. Jesus. Red zone had 3 trips inside the 30 and came out 6 points in the first half. Unacceptable.
With turnovers.
Yep.
Giving them
Yeah. So, it's just this offense. You got an NFL quarterback, an all-timer at running back, some dudes at receivers, some dudes at tight end. All of those positions. Well, tight end, I think, has played well. And I really like Josh Caddis. We can't lump the whole offense in here. Josh Caddis and I think Jordan Dingle are playing their guts out. I think the running back position, Chris Rodriguez, Juton McClain, played their guts out. Quarterback has been on a decline. It's cause of health. Let's just put it out there. But Will Levis is averaging 102 passing yards in the last 2 games. Had what he had against Vanderbilt, 109. Vanderbilt was giving up well over 300 yards per game, one of, if not the worst, pass defense in the country. The receivers started hot early this season. They've declined. Offensive line has not gotten better. At some point, we're going to have to talk about this, and I think tonight is it. You got some position groups that have not gotten better. Matter of fact, gotten worse. Now, offensive line, everybody, and I'm not there with them. Let's blame the offensive line. Adam, you're a personnel guy. Let's break this down individually. Kenneth Horsey's an all-SEC type player at guard. He's playing tackle.
Right.
Shouldn't be that bad, right? Jagger Burton was a high 4-star, and everybody in the building and in the NFL people say he's a pro. Mm-hmm. Eli Cox was a mid-year All-American guard, moves over just one spot to center. He's had 10 games. Tayshawn Manning was a starter at Auburn. He's a starter at Kentucky.
Played a lot of football.
Jeremy Flax was the number 1 JUCO tackle in America a few years ago. Please tell me there is talent there. They should not be playing like this. So let's start out with the offense. It's just been this way. It's been clunky. It's been slow. Not a lot of separation. Inconsistent. It's just been hard to watch, and I think it all came to a head Saturday in what was one of the ugliest performances I've ever seen from a Kentucky team against Vanderbilt. A bad defense.
Yep.
Bad defense.
Vanderbilt only had 13 sacks going into this game, and they had 4 Saturday night.
And Vanderbilt and Saturday should have been a game. Okay, we can't do all this. Let's run 5 plays, run it, and we'll run them well. The personnel in 5 years from now, let's take a look back at this game, and tell me how many NFL players were on the Kentucky sideline just on this game, and how many NFL players was on the Vanderbilt sideline. I think Mark Stoops has entered the Calipari era of having a bunch of pros and not winning big games, or not winning, right? That's what Kentucky. Sure. That's what Kentucky did on Saturday. Got beat by a lesser talented team that was much more motivated, much more ready to play, and executed at a higher level. And I'll shut up now.
It taps out. I agree. Nick, we talked about that after the game. There's no layups with this offense. Everything has got to be hard. Like, to put it to keep basketball, everything's got to be like a long 2. We can't get a wide step in 3. Can't get an easy bucket in the paint. Can't push ahead, get a layup. Everything has got to be really difficult with this offense. And it started off like your defense gets a takeaway. You can't go 3 and out and not gain a yard.
0 yards. It's
unacceptable. Like, that should be your 3 best. Like, we should see your best red zone stuff of the day right there.
One part about that too, Luckett, is like everybody, like, it's common knowledge when you force a turnover, what do? You take a shot in the first play. Is Scangarello so in his own head that he's like, you know what they're not going to expect? A run to Chris. It's like, no, just take a shot. First down. Like, why not? Another bad first series, believe it or not.
Yeah, and then they come out, okay, you play this awful first half. You have 4 possessions in the game. Each ended on Vandy's side of the field. You only have, 6 points at halftime? You come out, as Duke's in the house, you come out, you get a penalty, and then you go 3 and out for your first possession. After halftime, after you, all right, settle in, we really need to score here. We got an important stop before the half. Like, we need to score here and tilt the game the other way. And you don't come out, and you come out 3 and out and kick the Vandy goes down and scores. they just really the offense is just now we can talk about the offense. Like Chris Rodriguez put the team on his back, 2 drives, and we got help from Juton McClain on one of them, and really kind of set up for Kentucky to win the game. The defense didn't finish their end of the deal, but this offense is just unacceptable for what we've seen to this part in the year. It was supposed to be better than this. Kentucky signed up what they signed up for when they hired Rich Gangarello. It's not what they're getting. The offensive line, we know the offensive line was an issue, but like as Freddie pointed out, they're getting like worse, it seems like, on the offensive line. Like, why isn't it at least getting a little bit better? Like, where's the proof of concept that it's getting better, that it's going to work even when you get maybe newer players in here? I think the freshman receivers are hitting the wall, but they should be able to design stuff specifically against a Vanderbilt defense that has a big talent deficiency really across the board. And the fact that they had to scratch and claw to do what they did, it's just ridiculous at this point. They can't finish drives. They're not turning the ball over, but they might as well be because they're not doing anything really positive. Mainly, they're having a very hard time finishing drives. I mean, it's just been the story of the season has just been the offensive ineffectiveness.
And I'll take it even further, Adam. And again, I'm not bashing players. I'm not bashing coaches. This is what I see. Okay, the 2-point plays. You went 0 for 2 in 2-point plays. You make those, and it's a different game, right? Mm-hmm. The second one was rushed. You had a penalty. Get closer to the end zone. It seemed like that was rushed and hurried and just discombobulated. And then the other one. So, again, not playing complimentary football. You kick one low, get a kick blocked. You miss 2-point two-point conversions. That's a win right there. You score 1 touchdown of the 3 drives in the red zone, and we're talking a different game. And I think this team is not – in big moments of the season, this team has struggled, especially – Yeah, and defensively, I felt – and there's nobody bragged on Brad White more than me in this defense. I think they had their worst game of the year. I really do. I think it was worse than Tennessee. Tennessee scored more points, but Tennessee started 5 drives inside of Kentucky territory. Vanderbilt went to nearly the length of field on a couple scoring drives, and then the 2-point. You can blame the penalty. You can blame Carrington Valentine getting hurt, but let's move Andrew Phillips over there to play corner instead of bringing Harrison off the bench, or call timeout, whatever. Hindsight is 20/20, but it's just I don't know what's wrong with this team, and it's aggravating because it hurts my feelings to see them lose. It hurts my feelings to say stuff like this. I don't enjoy this, but yeah, I mean, where was what it looked like in the stadium? Because I was watching it from my. I was so mad I didn't even go to the porch. I just sit here and took it like a man. What was it like in the stadium? I mean, was there any fire or juice whatsoever? Because the 2 series I watched later on that night, I watched TCU and Texas. TCU plays every snap like their hair's on fire. Right. And I valued and I love that. And I turned it off because it made me even mad again. So what was it like in the stadium on a sideline? What was the vibe like there?
Defensively, Nick, I thought they just looked unprepared. Like, it looked like they weren't expecting Mike Wright, and that's not what I've come to expect from a Brad White defense. That was a really shocking part to me. Go ahead.
The part that got me defensively, like, it wasn't – they just got greedy and they were being stat patters. Like that play that J.J. Weaver made, he gets a forced fumble in the second snap, so Freddie, he gets a little aggressive and he tries to chase down a TFL. And Wright just keeps it and goes 60 yards. Like, he was the guy that was supposed to hit us. Or he was assigned to hit the quarterback. So I actually thought that the crowd, for all things considered, was pretty decent. I'm
talking about the team, not the crowd, the team.
Yeah.
What were they like? Was it did they show any fire ever?
The body language from afar did not look good from QB1. I think it's been progressively getting worse because he's progressively getting hit more. Whenever there's like that throw to Barryon Brown where nobody was on Brown, but like Barryon quit running and it was off. Like, that could have been a touchdown, and they both had to look at each other like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I purposefully watched pregame warmups more closely than I usually do, Freddie, because I thought that could be an issue going into the game. And I liked the way I saw UK warm up. It seemed like they had some fire. People were jumping around, moving around. Guys seemed to be into it from my point of view. But it definitely felt like when the game got started, it was just felt like some like going through the motions. Didn't feel like there was a ton of energy and juice. I don't know why. I think Kentucky got lured into playing Vanderbilt's game, and then it just kind of happened, and they couldn't really get out of it. I kind of asked Mark Stoops about this, but I do feel like there's some things with the defense that maybe they get a little down in the dumps a little bit when the offense can't score. I felt like that in the South Carolina game, and I felt like this in this one. There's just a lot of pressure on them. And they're getting stop after stop, and the offense just isn't doing anything in the first half against the team they thought they should beat. And I think that had a mental effect in that game. So that's what I saw from where I was sitting regarding that. But that's ridiculous that we're even having this discussion about whether they're getting up for a game or not. That's not what we've come to expect from a Mark Stoops team. That's not really something we've seen. We've seen them play down to their competition some, but they, like Nick, we talked about earlier, Nick, usually they make the plays when they have to make them in these games. We've seen in the past. They go Dorian Baker against EKU. They get the interception against Eastern Michigan in 2017. And today Saturday they just didn't make the plays in winning time, and that was, I guess, the most concerning part about the whole thing.
Our friend Jeff Drummond says team was DOA, dead on arrival. The YouTube chat. Another person on the chat on KSR's YouTube channel said team looked quiet. At most, C-Rod in the fourth was jumping up and down there trying to motivate, and the players just kind of stood there. So it wasn't a great juice, but I do think too a lot of what happened in that game wasn't anything that we should have been surprised by, because it's what this team has shown that it is over 10 games. And that's a team that struggles to execute in the red zone. They struggle with opening drives. And the offensive line, it's not just them, but they're a big part of the problem. And I do find it fascinating too. Like, you know, Freddie, and you were big on this as well, but like a lot of the blame got put on Wolford. He's just one part of the reason why we're having so many problems. And I'm surprised that Yenser isn't taking more heat than Scangarello. You know, like there are reasons why, as Mark Stoops said today, they're behind on offensive line depth. There are reasons why guys are playing earlier. I mean, your coach of that position was fighting cancer for 3 years. You've had now 3 coaches in 3 different years. Like, you're going to have some struggles. But to not see the improvement over 10 games or not know what your problem is and to plan around it. And I think that might be why you're seeing more of the frustrations from the quarterback, from different players, is that there isn't anything changed. It feels like there's been a lot of the same old every single game with this team. And, you know, you do the same thing over and over again. You can't expect any different results. Same thing when that third time that Ruffalo went out there, Freddie. I feel bad for it, but like you felt like you were skating on thin ice making 2, and then what happens? The third one's low. And Stoops spent 5 minutes defending Ruffalo, going to bat for him in his press conference. He went to bat for him all week last week, and then today it was just like, you know, some kicks get blocked, other times you kick it right into him. It's like,
wow. Yeah, you know, I have watched some TV today, and one of these shows had a play up where it was a rookie tackle going against somebody really good. I can't remember. And they were chipping, you know, with a running back tight end. And you make up for deficiencies schematically. And I've not seen Kentucky do that. And I think, you know, the sacks, Vanderbilt had 4 sacks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, 4.
I would go as far as say 3 of those were on the quarterback. You got to get the ball out of your hands, especially in the red zone. And I think Vanderbilt was doing a great too. Yeah, I think Vanderbilt, one of the worst pass defenses in all of college football. I don't want to say play Kentucky's the right way, the smart way. Wasn't going to give anything up deep, bring up situational pressure. But Kentucky wasn't getting open. The pass catchers weren't getting open out back there against the Vanderbilt defense. It's not very good. So Levis held on to the ball. So it's everybody. I thought the offensive line held up pretty good at times. You know, they got beat on the zero blitz over the nose tackle. That happens. But, you know, Levis has got to get the ball out. And with him not being able to run the football has really hurt this team, especially in the red zone. But again, if you're going to be the first quarterback taken, you got to make some of those throws. You can't have back-to-back games where you throw for 98 and 109 yards. That tells me if you're not getting it done with this guy, then there's bigger problems. Because this guy is a pro, right? And if he's throwing for 102 yards over the last 2 games, there's bigger problems than personnel, in my opinion.
To me, Freddie, it was damning against Tennessee and Vanderbilt, 2 pass defenses that have struggled. Tennessee is playing a converted safety at cornerback for the first time ever playing that position, and you can't get guys open. Like, we all talk about the Tavion Robinson drop, but I mean, that was, in-face coverage. The guy was all over him. There just weren't guys open for a lot of both of these games. Why aren't guys getting open? Why aren't they getting schemed open? It's just a lot of issues on top of the pass protection. Like, again, I get back to it. Why is everything so freaking hard for this offense? Why is everything so hard? Why is it hard to score 21 points in an SEC game? Like, why is it this
hard? It's a 72-yard explosive run from your all-time great running back.
Why is it this hard? It should not be this hard, but it is.
Need that.
And, like, I'm with Freddie. Like, if you can't do it with this guy, what it makes – you can't do it with this guy and an all-timer at running back here that they have. How can you have any confidence that moving forward with new pieces, they're going to be able to put something together next year? It's damning. Like, I think that the results we've seen are just unacceptable, and you can't just sit here and say, "Oh, we think it might get better." There's no reason to think it will get better because Nick, this guy was hired because he had experience, right? He's called plays before. Yeah. He's been in big moments. He's got a lot of game experience and been in a lot of wars and tough games in the NFL. He's come here and he just he looks like he's in over his head, which is something I never thought I was going to see coming into the season.
The thing that Mark Stoops said today on Monday, I'm not going to make knee-jerk reactions, but my head's not in the sand. My head's not in the sand is saying, I know what you're saying. I'm well aware, but I'm also not firing anybody in the middle of the season. Like that's his way of saying it. The argument for keeping Rich Scangarello that some people will say, well, he can get you a quarterback. He's got this collective. When guys go in the transfer portal, he's going to know him. He's going to be right there, and he's going to be able to get a quarterback. That's why you keep Rich Scangarello around, so he can get you another quarterback. First and foremost, what are the chances that this guy in the portal is actually better or as talented or better than Will Levis? It's probably pretty low, right? 2, is he even going to be able to get a guy in January? Like, you would ideally want to have somebody around for the spring practice portion. And a lot of the guys that you might be mentioning are probably going to get a spring practice to go through. There's quarterbacks out there in the portal. Whoever you hire is going to be able to find a quarterback. Like this isn't like left tackle where last year you struggled because there's only 1 or 2 in there. Quarterbacks have been transferring long before the portal was around. They've been out there. So I just think it's very silly to put one position player ahead of the entire offense because, I've seen Eddie Grand play a whole season without a quarterback in there, and it turned out all right. Like the future of the offense is more important than one guy getting a quarterback, and I just don't have faith in it. So I know that it's unwise typically in this profession, Freddie, when everybody else is screaming, fire him, fire him, fire him. Like, you need to have a level head, but to play as badly as they did, the top 5 or 4 statistical categories, Freddie. Scoring offense, rush pass offense, and total offense. In the defensive portion of those, Vanderbilt was 125th or worse in 3 out of 4. I mean, they were as bad as you can be, and you couldn't score against them. Like
every Power 5 offense they faced had averaged at least, I think, 8.4 yards per attempt against them, and I think Levis ended up at 4 and change or something, under 50% completion rate. That's just like.
Yeah, 50% completion, almost 5 yards per attempt.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
109 yards for a top 5 pick in the NFL. And that's just, it just doesn't make sense. Let's look at Kentucky for the season right now, scoring 23 points a game. That's 11th in the SEC. 120 rush yards per game. That's 13th. 220 pass yards. That's going down to 10th in the SEC. 339 total yards. That's last in the SEC. 39 allowed sacks. That's last in the SEC. 70 tackles for loss. That's 12th in the SEC. I don't mean to keep going on and on, but after 10 games, you have a body of work. And I have been number one on saying, okay, it's Will's injury. It's this, that, and the other. They're going to be okay. And I kept waiting, and it's digressed. And I'm not one of those people that says fire anybody. I don't want anybody to lose their job because jobs are hard to come by and families and all that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there needs to be an honest evaluation of the entire offensive process. And I think that's something that Mark Stoops will do. And we've seen him do it before, and we'll see what he does with this one. But, I don't see how, like Adam said, you got an all-time at running back. 24 passed up Mark Higgs and Mo Williams. He's up in rarefied air now with really just Benny. He and Benny, right? So
Benny and Sonny Collins, the only ones left.
Yeah, Sonny, you're not going to get better than Chris. You're not going to get a more talented quarterback than number 7. Receivers, we'll see what happens there, but you got talent there. Tight ends. The portal is going to be – first of all, this season, like Adam said, these last 2 games, let's see what happens. But the bowl game is going to be a mess. Yeah. Because I don't think Will's going to play. Will shouldn't play.
Yeah, how can you blame him for not playing? After
Rodriguez should not play. It's going to be a mess. So, right in the timing of all this – and I don't want to get into the football basketball thing because that's not my deal. But the day the NIL was announced, it comes after that embarrassing loss. And then basketball's got Gonzaga and Michigan State this week and just signed the number 1 class ever. And you're with that performance Saturday, people are starting to move on. And it's really hard not to blame them for that, right? So just the timing of that performance was awful. And, it's just very, very frustrating to watch and to try to analyze because I don't want to get upset. I'm like Mark Stoops. I don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction, and I'm trying not to, but numbers don't lie, and that's what's going on with this offense right now.
Yeah, just getting on some of these numbers. 5.4 yards per play. It's T88 right now nationally. Kentucky has it. Now, if you take out the COVID season in 2020, it's been since 2014 since their offense has been that bad. Yards per play, 5.4. Scoring offense, 23 points per game. The only non-COVID team to score less than that was the 2013 team, 20.5 points per game. Stoops' first team. This is where we're at numbers-wise, data-wise, what they're doing offensively. It's bad as Stoops has had since he's been here with this personnel. The results got to be the results at the end of the day, bottom line. And this might be the worst offense we've seen. Definitely, if you're weighting it with the talent available, I don't think there's any doubt.
Well, this brings us to a fun segment on the KSR Football Podcast that you originated with, and it's brought to you by our good friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks lets you get in on the action no matter what sport you're watching this fall right now. It stinks that the football team is struggling because there's so much happening. We've got Monday Night Football tonight. Next week on this podcast, it'll be a day after UK Gonzaga. It'll be World Cup. It'll be feast week for basketball, Monday Night Football, Thanksgiving football. You can play it all at Prize Picks. Use the promo code KSR, and they will match your deposit 100% up to $100. It's pretty simple. You pick players. You pick more or less. You parlay them together. If you listen to last week's show, I gave you a winner. All 3 hit, and I turned $10 into $45. So you're welcome. That's how you play the game with Prize Picks. It's a lot of fun. Tonight, I'm going Jalen Hurts more than 39.5 yards and Terry McLaurin more than 4 catches for the Washington Don't Call Me football team. So it's a fun way to play. Download the app today or visit them online at prizepicks.com. Use the promo code KSR, and they will match your deposit up to $100. Luckett, I need you to ask your would you rather to one Mr. Freddie Maggard that's brought to you by our friends at Prospects.
Freddie, would you rather have the current iteration of the Kentucky offense or the 2020 iteration of the Kentucky offense, the COVID season?
I would. Geez, that's a.
It's tough, isn't it?
I take the 2020 version because of the offensive line.
Same.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
we all know what. Hold on just a second. We all know what happened after that year.
Yeah.
Right. This is what this is the same. They're getting the same results, pretty much.
Yeah. The offensive line was, and you still had
That
Rodriguez.
team had a greater strength, right? Like you knew you were going to at least be able to run the football. Like
the team did something good.
Yes.
One
and
thing
right
good.
now, it's just. I mean, maybe they'll try to throw it deep, right? Like you get a 15-yard penalty on Barryon Brown just by chucking it deep and getting a PI. But the lack of it's just like, all right, we're either going to get a big play or 3 and out. Like there's no real in between. At least you knew that 2020 offensive line, like they were going to run it. They couldn't throw it. Like if you could get to 3rd and 3, you could have drives. But if you got to 3rd and 7, you were in trouble. They're just always in 3rd and 7 and need Will Levis to bail them out. And that's why they were 4-12 against Vandy.
Yeah, I mean it's jarringly similar. Like the offense this year struggles in the red zone, right? 56, I think 0.4% touchdown percentage. 2020 team was 51.5%, and it didn't have the non-con bump, right? And scoring offense was about 2.5 points lower. Didn't have the non-con bump. For me, the 2020 offense actually showed some pop. They got 35 points in regulation against Ole Miss. Boat raced a bad South Carolina team at the end of the year. Hung up 38 on a bad Vandy defense. And we haven't seen that from this offense.
Right. And that's to your point. And Kendrick brought it up too in the YouTube chat that that was against an all SEC schedule as well. Like this team's getting a little bit of benefit by scoring 31 and 37 against the MAC schools. So and even
their good game in the SEC, Nick.
Too.
Even in their good game in the SEC, like the Mississippi State game, they only had 6 points at halftime. They couldn't score in the first half. And a lot of that was Rodriguez had to put the team on his back and run for 200 yards. It's just it's just been nothing easy. Everything's like pulling teeth with his offense.
It's been bad. It's been rough. I do think that I think my biggest overall concern is that it's not just a reoccurring theme this year, but it's a reoccurring theme in perpetuity, right? Like in 10 years, there's been two good offenses at Kentucky. You got a little bit more production for what your talent early on, like 14 with Neil Brown was pretty decent. But right now, your only 2 good offenses of the Mark Stoops era are 2016, Jeff Badette, Juice, Benny, Boom, Steven Johnson letting it rip. They were explosive. They were fun. They had to outscore teams to win because the defense wasn't that great. That was when Stoops had to take over play calling duties halfway through the year. So you had 2016, and then you had 2021, where it took a future first-round quarterback, an NFL offensive coordinator, and a top 5 running back all time. Oh, and also a record-breaking generational talent at receiver for you to produce those numbers. So, some of this does, actually need to be on Stoops' shoulders. And I kind of try to get it in today, hey, maybe shrinking the game just doesn't work. I know that style works for you, but maybe it's only good to a certain point. And I think that's my biggest concern, Freddie, is that we thought he flipped the switch when he went to this pro style, but he might have just found lightning in a bottle with Liam Cohen and got a great play caller, but you can't always rely on him to have an outstanding play caller to be able to have an above average offense. Because I don't when we have these criticisms too, Freddie, we don't need them to be Tennessee scoring 66 points a game. Just get to 30 against bad teams. Just be in the top 50 in the country, and you're a 10-win football team.
Yeah, I mean, I think all that's going to have to get looked at. I mean, if there is a change, and I'm not pushing for a change at coordinator, what direction will he go? Will he go back to an NFL type? If Cohen leaves L.A., he's more than welcome to come back. Last year was fun. Last year was a lot of fun to watch, and I think it spoiled us. And
felt like we were on the
verge.
Trend or like a trendy, not a trendy offense, but like ahead of the curve offense.
Yeah.
That defenses their minds were scattered. How to defend them? They really didn't know what to do. They couldn't stop one receiver, and they couldn't stop the run. It was just. You could see them. It was mind-boggling for some of these defenses to stop this offense. It just felt good from Kentucky's end to be on that, and it just flipped in a year. And that's really the disappointing part.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of gut-wrenching things when you lose to Vanderbilt and they snap a 26-game SEC losing streak. But the big you just thought the floor was higher. Like, Freddie, I thought – even if Will got hurt, this should be an 8-win team. I mean, it just all of the I've got a pretty good sense about this team. I picked every game right last year in the preseason. I don't like to toot my own horn that much, but damn it, I feel like I've got a good idea of what's going to happen. Never in my wildest dreams did I think they could drop 2 out of 3 to Vanderbilt, South Carolina, and Missouri.
Nearly dropped all 3.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I think Kentucky could play a backup quarterback and beat South Carolina and Vanderbilt both, and just by talent around that quarterback. But like Adam said, nothing has come easy. The 2-point plays didn't look easy,
and they should be some of your best plays, right?
I mean, normally you have a couple on the card, and you've worked on them all week, and that's what you do. So I don't know. It's just been more. This offense has been laborious. It's been clunky and not fun to watch, and that worries me because of the talent around. Now, I hate to keep going back to it, but Will Levis is banged up, but everybody is at week 11. And if you can't run, then let's get some slants. Let's get something going quick. Let's get some play something. I don't know. I have a hard time. Other than when 24 gets rolling, I mean, this offense in the back stretch of the season hasn't really shown it does anything good, anything that's a go-to. If the game's on the line, what are you going to go to? Now, last week against Missouri, had some explosive plays. Dane Key popped. I mean, so it's not – that's what made Saturday so frustrating because you expected – against that pass defense is, okay, this isn't a pad statting game, but this is a game the offense can get right. And I think we said that on this podcast this time last week, and that just didn't happen.
We'll have an Ole Miss fan sliding into the chat.
Thanks for the $5. Let's move on.
Yeah. Also, and the thing is nobody wants to hear it. But Stoops mentioned today, he's like, we are 2 penalties away from being 8-2. And I don't know what it is about this team this year that's not able to – like, that sloppiness is the reason why – like, I mean, the schedule's set up. Even despite all the offensive deficiencies like it.
Don't look at the schedule next year if you want to feel good. The schedule next year is a brute, and they had a great opportunity here, and that's part of the disappointing part. But I do want to buck against one thing, Nick, because I think like this offseason there's going to be a lot of like – Stoops is a problem takes. But it took a lot of guts, I think, to move on from Gran and to go with Cohen like he did. Like, Cohen wasn't experienced at all. Like, that was a ballsy move he made. And it really paid off, going out of his comfort zone to do that. All of us would have roasted him for the most part if he didn't stay in that tree this year after we all saw what happened.
Yep, you're right.
It made all the sense in the world to stay in that tree, and you got somebody with a great resume. It just hasn't worked out. So I think what Stoops showed doing that was a willingness to go out and not just not be the total dictator I think he gets sometimes perceived as or labeled, and going out of his comfort zone to maybe do something on offense, but still staying in with kind of the overall mentality. One who wants to be able to run the ball, wants to run play action, all that stuff. So that is my one saving grace if they did make a move. But this move made all the sense. It just hasn't. To me, it just hasn't worked, and that's just unfortunate. But none of us, whatever this was, 9 months ago, everyone thought this was the right move and the right way to go. It just hasn't, for whatever reason, worked to this point.
And take it even further. I mean, I liked it even more because the offensive line coach had experience with John, and he was with the offensive coordinator at the 49ers last year.
Made all the sense on paper.
Yeah, there's a lot of continuity there with these two. I mean, I did not expect to be having this conversation going into the Georgia game at all. No. And I mean, it's shocking, to be honest with you, and it's something that's unexpected.
So it was unexpected. We went into this. I remember when November started, we kind of went into the stretch saying, you've got 4 games to go out there and kind of prove it, salvage the season. You started off on the right foot. You thought you were going in the right direction. They were finishing drives by scoring touchdowns instead of kicking field goals against good Missouri defense. And then you just did the complete opposite against Vanderbilt. So, Freddie, now with 2 games left, I don't really know how much you can do against Georgia. But can we talk ourselves into, all right, here's a way you can end the season that gets people feeling like, okay, the train isn't completely off the tracks. This is just the big step back before you take a couple more steps forward to get back to where you were.
Well, the problem is you're facing 2 teams that create a lot of havoc.
Yeah.
And flat get after you on the defensive side of the football. We all made fun of Louisville defense last year, and they needed to be made fun of because it was awful. They've made it, and just like Missouri, they've turned 180, and that's a good defense over there that they have, and they attack. So you're facing 2 really good defenses that create havoc, tackles for loss, quarterback stats, etc., and that's what you've been bad at. I think you got to beat Louisville. I think you beat Louisville, you put people in a better mood, and then the bowl game is going to be irrelevant because it's going to be the roster. The 2 deep is going to look like a mess because you're going to have transfers. I mean, that's 2022, and they're going to leave as soon as the Louisville game's over. They're going to unload and head out, right? So I think you got to if Kentucky can somehow be competitive with Georgia, I don't think they're going to win that game, and I've never picked Kentucky to lose a game in my life, but I mean, I got to do what I got to do there. I think you beat Louisville. If Kentucky beats Louisville, the people will leave that stadium with some smiles and look forward to signing day. And here we go again. We'll start the process back going. But a season like this, you get clobbered by Georgia and lose to Louisville, it's going to be a long, long, long off season.
And Nick, you know my feelings on this rivalry game at the end of the season. This is another scenario why this is a great time to have this game. Got a chance to end on a high note and really kind of at least get the train somewhat back on the tracks. Yeah, but it could backfire.
Yeah,
if you
lose. Backfire horribly.
So, but it's a great opportunity, I think, and you get them at home this year. I feel bad. I feel bad for this team because they really need a road game, in my opinion. They're going to go home, and it's not going to feel like a home environment. Like, the fans are going to be booing whenever the offense does something bad. I mean, that's what's going to happen, and you can't blame them. If they go 3 and out, throw it short of the sticks, run a draw on 3rd and 10, don't score in the red zone, kick a field goal when it's maybe 4th and it's just like it's going to be a tenuous situation there in that stadium, and it sucks for them. But that's just where we're at right now, and so for Kentucky, it's. Can you play with some fire, some pride, I think? I think this Saturday is all about making yourself, the coaches, your supporters, I don't know a better word, but proud in your effort level. Not necessarily if you win or lose the game, but don't go out there and play with the same effort we just saw, right? And then it's finding a way to beat Louisville. I mean, those are the 2 things I'm looking for. I want to see a Kentucky team that plays hard, plays their what's off on Saturday against Georgia. And I know it's a popular opinion to be like, oh, pack it up, don't do this, don't do that. It's football. You got to play a football game. Go play hard. Like, these coaches are paid millions of dollars to go to be competitive in these games. And so that's really what I want to see. But it really all comes down to this Louisville game. They just got to figure something out and figure out a way to win. But with this offense, it's hard to see it. You're probably going to need a gem from Brad White and his defense again.
It's one of the you get to thinking about worst case scenarios, and we kind of did early on, but the way this Governor's Cup series goes, it takes huge momentum swings. And what I really worry about is you at least saw the end of Louisville schedule. Like, okay, well, they'll be beat up going into that game in Lexington. It's like, well, Clemson's just okay. They got out of there relatively fine. I know Malik Cunningham got hurt, but NC State's playing a backup quarterback, and they just lost at Boston College, and they get them at home. So they have a chance to have a ton of momentum, winning 5 of their last 6, with their only loss being to Clemson, and have a lot, not like the fake juice they've had in recent years, like some legit reason to believe that they can schematically beat this team because they could blitz their brains out. But if you win, you can get that feeling back. You can get that good positive feeling back. And then you go into a time where this is going to be a tumultuous offseason. It just is. Mark Stoops talked about the impact that free agency has on it. And he went from Freddie, it was funny. He used to not want to say the words collective and stuff anymore. Now he's like, we need a collective. We got to ramp it up. He's like, because in free agency that you got to have some cap space. Like, he's talking at it like a professional program because it has to be. But he brought up Jamin Davis and how, there's some guys on this team that just need to put in the time, put in the work, and then that process can turn into results. And I get the sense that in this new world, he's trying to embrace it as best as he can. But getting folks to buy into that process and that culture, it's a lot more difficult to do when there's so much turnover. Not only bringing in 20 new high school kids, but also 50 new transfer portal players every year.
Yeah, coaching transfer or turnover too.
Yeah, and he also mentioned when asked why he played Keontae Goodwin instead of redshirting, he said how many players stick around for 5 years anymore. Yeah, so it's a different landscape. Jamin Davis, you're going to have some of those, but not as many. Because that's just not it. I mean, you can get out of there in a hurry if you want to, but I don't think that you can get into the practice of appeasing players either. I mean, you can't get into that because that's a slippery slope as well, of players making demands. And I'm not saying that's going on, but you just can't get into that. It's just messy right now. But I think it's a hole that Kentucky's. They dug themselves by losing to Vanderbilt. If you beat Vanderbilt, you're 7-3 right now. I mean, you can sell that, right? I mean, right now at 6-4, the last 2 games are reason games, meaning you're going to have to give fans a reason to come back next year. You're going to have to give fans a reason to be excited in the offseason because right now it's not there. So that's why I think it's so big to hit that 7 mark, just to get to 7 wins. And to beat Louisville, I think will go a tremendous way as far as giving to NIL. But again, I do preface this. I do think there's going to be outgoing transfers more than we've seen this year. I don't have any information on that. I'm just guessing. But if I had to, again, guess, I would think that's going to be the situation.
Whew. Where are we going to go bowling?
It's a tenuous situation right now. Like, these next 6 weeks are just going to be – like, buckle in, boys. We're going on a ride, I don't know, Nick. I'm digging into that this week. But it sounded like there's a 3-way tie at 7-5 between Florida, Mississippi State, Kentucky. Kentucky might have the track to Tampa still, but it feels weird even talking about that right now with this team, to me.
Well, and especially, like, on this last stretch, there's been we're going to a better – like there was reasons to get excited for all these bowl games. The way that Win Bowden ended the year and he was going to play in it.
Vandy just ruined any, sell job you had or, any progress you thought you were making towards the end. It just ruined everything. Like, you cannot lose that Vanderbilt team. And they went out and did the one thing they could not do this season. Like, whatever happened, you could not do that, and they went out and did that in embarrassing fashion. Like, it wasn't like they went out there and were -4 in the turnover column. Vandy recovered maybe 5. There was 5 fumbles in the game, and Vandy recovered all of them. It wasn't anything like that. They just got beat.
Yeah.
And they almost stole it. They almost stole it. The rightful team won that football game. Like, don't get it twisted, what happened at the end. Vandy deserved to win that game. And so, how did that happen? Like, you got to take a long look in the mirror. Like, how did we get to this point? And what happened to the season? And you got to find out what your problems are, and you got to fix them.
The worst part for me is that all of the things the haters say, I got to that point where I started being like, well, it might be right. Like, you're questioning everything when you lose to Vanderbilt. You just are, especially in year 10, because right now you're 2 of your worst 5 or 6 losses you've had as a head coach happen in year 10. And it's just shocking. It's just shocking that we are sitting here talking about a loss to Vanderbilt November of 2022. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. We were celebrating Stoops with the most wins of any other coach in Kentucky football history, and they were on their way to being the 7th-ranked team in the country. Like, it's just, man,
losing the Vandy,
ain't been fun. And at least in 2020, you could kind of COVID excuse some things away, right? You still got to win in Jacksonville and a Florida bowl game to end it. Finding those silver linings this offseason, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding.
Losing to Vanderbilt also made everyone in that building is touchable now, right? I mean, this impacts everybody. Everybody's going to be reviewed.
Yeah.
At times, there were some untouchables in that building. That's no longer the case. I mean, it's a total mirror-looking week for Kentucky, and I believe in Mark Stoops. I do. I love the guy. I think he's a great coach. He's the best to ever do it here. I believe in him, and he's got a lot of work to do because this is an uncharacteristic team of his. We've not seen really this before from a team that he's coached at Kentucky, and I think he's going to have to do a lot of evaluations, and it's going to have to cover the entire program, every player on the roster, and every coach on the staff. And everything is he does that anyway. But I mean, what has led to this regression? I mean, that's a tough question to answer, but it's one that has to be answered, right? I mean, what has caused this team to go on a downward spiral? I mean, and it has. I hate to say that, but you very well could have lost to Missouri. You got clubbed at Tennessee. Got beat by South Carolina at home. I didn't realize it until I just said that. You lose to South Carolina and Vanderbilt at home. There's something wrong, right? I mean, You should not do that.
It's a ranked team in both of them.
Yeah, that's a cannot happen deal there.
And it's a question like he's going to have to get ready to answer because he's going to get it asked all offseason. He's going to get asked local media after the season's over. He's going to get asked when he goes to Nashville for media days in July by national media. That's going to be the question he's going to have to answer. Like, how did it get like this? What happened? And how are you going to fix it? And so that's, it's just another layer, Nick, to what was already going to be a very tenuous offseason, in my opinion, like a critical offseason for the future of the program. And it adds another layer to that. And to me, that's part of the reason why just these last 2 games, to me, it's just getting through it at this point and then getting to this offseason where that's where the real stuff is going to happen, in my opinion, especially in that that month of December, those first couple of weeks of January. Like that is when I think most of the stuff's going to happen. That's where if you had hires, you would have hires. It's when the first big batch of the portal is going to come in. It's where you would think they would land their quarterback potentially at the future, or at least of next year. So it's just a huge, huge moment here, I think, for the Kentucky football program.
What is funny is that despite all the concerns, like we thought for a second there was a flip happening while we were podcasting.
Well, that's our life now. That's our life now for the next 6 weeks.
It was just Cameron Calhoun sharing a video, but he decommitted from Cincinnati. He could end up joining the Kentucky 2023 recruiting class, him and a couple others from Winton Woods. But there's a lot happening right now. But luckily, we got you all covered right here at Kentucky Sports Radio. Plenty of coverage on the KSR YouTube channel. Seriously, go check out Steven's video from the game on Saturday. I actually Luckett talked up Como. If you need to get gassed up on Como a little bit more, check out the Faroe Field Stadium tour. Like that's solid as well. Putting more there. Always a tone on the blog as well.
I got a question before you get out of here.
Okay.
I just saw a video of James Franklin doing push-ups.
Yeah.
What a loser.
What happened there?
He got a personal foul penalty.
Oh.
And so it was him being a showman, being James Franklin.
Yeah, I make a mistake. Yeah, you got to do put that. Yeah. Look at me. Everybody look at me.
Yeah.
I do want to end by sending our heartfelt thoughts and prayers to Charlottesville, a campus that has gone through hell and back in the last 24 hours, and it's not the only time they've been through tragedy. 3 football players were murdered. It's heartbreaking stuff, and sadly, we've kind of become numb to news like this.
And Coach Robbie Lucas passed away from Somerset.
Oh, I mean, that was awful. The McGoffin County bus accident.
2 things. Yeah, I knew Robbie when he played at the University of Cumberland. I actually coached him down there. And just a great guy, super coach, was for the kids. He won well over 100 games, a state championship runner-up. But that's just on the field. But he loved his players, and they loved him. And I loved Robbie, and I've known him for a long time. Just talked to him about a month ago, and thoughts and prayers to his family and the Somerset community.
It does make you realize, wow, we're all worked up over this stupid football game.
And it's just a game.
It's the
in
dumbest
McGoffin
game.
County, in Charlottesville, and it's just a game. And I have to remind myself, I'm too old to get this worked up about it, and I get mad at myself because I get so mad about what a game, and it's silly for me, and but it's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just hard. It was really, really hard to watch that, and it hurt me for Mark Stoops. It hurt me for the players. It hurt me for the support staff and so many people that I care about in that building. I love and admire it. It hurt me because I knew they were hurting, right? And then the fans showed up, and in horrible conditions. I felt badly for them. So it's just like Mark Stoops said, you get emotional. You want to make statements and decisions. It's not really smart to do that, but we're podcasters. We just
gotta talk.
We gotta talk. That's what we do. Yeah.
Well, our time.
It's still not fun.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot here. We're not even talking about the game on Saturday, right?
No.
There's a lot bigger issues. I mean, they're playing number 1 Georgia in their house, and there's so many bigger issues right now in the program. It kind of says it all. It's where they're at, and they got problems, and they got problems they need to fix pretty quick.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Georgia once.
Yeah, undefeated number 1 Georgia's coming in the house. Kentucky's got who they think might be a first-round quarterback, and that's not the story around here. It's about Kentucky and an ineffective offense and sloppiness in all 3 phases have led to this really disappointing season. Yeah. And it's how do they get it fixed from here? That's really all anybody's attention is on, and I think rightfully so.
Whew. Going to be a long couple weeks, but we will keep talking. That's why they pay us the big bucks. Thanks to our friends at Prize Picks and Justice Dental. We'll keep talking right here on the KSR YouTube channel. Hopefully Drew is not talking right now and just enjoying his time in paradise with his new wife. We're so happy for the Franklins, and we're excited. They'll be back next week. Get us ready for Feast Week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Remember, it is just a game. We're going to have fun talking about it, even if it is stuff we don't want to talk about. So for Freddie Maggard, Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. We'll see you next time right here on the KSR Football Podcast.